Correspondent for Newsweek magazine. He flew back with President Johnson from Texas and can tell us what it was like at the swearing-in.
Well, we rushed out to the airport when we found that President Kennedy's body was being taken out there. On arrival, we learned that President Johnson was aboard the plane. His movements had been kept very secret up to that time. And 3 of us were delegated as a pool to go aboard and witness the swearing-in. We were ushered back to the conference room on Air Force One, which is a small section of the plane about midship, 12 by 15. There were, at that time, about 10 people in the conference room. The new president was standing there with his wife and was waiting for Mrs. Kennedy, who had come aboard with her husband's body, to come to the conference room so that she could witness the swearing-in. During that period that we waited, they found a Bible aboard the plane. Someone had typed out on a little piece of Air Force stationery the oath that is administered to the president. And
where did the lady judge come from who gave the oath?
The judge arrived there at about the same time we did.
She was sent for?
She was sent for. She's an old a friend and political ally of the vice president, and she's 67 years old. I understand that the vice president had exerted great pressure on Mr. Kennedy to appoint her, although she was over age.
Well, how did it go then?
Eventually, Mrs. Kennedy came into the room, and although she was, her legs were still spattered with blood, she was amazingly composed. She was either in shock or has amazing control of herself. And the vice president then asked his wife, Lady Bird, to stand on his right and Mrs. Kennedy to stand on his left. The judge held this small Bible out, and the new president put his hand on the Bible, raised his right hand, and repeated the oath. The president then turned and kissed Lady Bird. Lady Bird stepped forward and shook hands with Mrs. Kennedy and said, "The whole nation mourns your husband." And at this point, many people, I'd say there were about 27 people in this tiny compartment, pressed forward to speak to the president. Most of it was on the line, "God be with you," of course.
That was how President Johnson was sworn in aboard an aircraft. You've been listening to Charles Roberts, White House correspondent for Newsweek magazine. Ray Scherer, NBC News, at the White House.